Joining us today is someone that you may have already met if you've been to a JUST conference, if you've seen one of our DMST, Domestic Minor Sex Trafficking training videos, or in March 2020, Faith Initiative's webinar that was titled Prevention in Your Church and Community. She's well known and respected by Shared Hope and has contributed so much. Dr. Renee Murrell brings insight today to help us understand how we, as members of the church, can be a strong ally to a victim of sex trafficking that we may encounter. Her background is serving many decades as a victim advocate with the FBI in the Maryland field office. She's also a social worker and an expert on domestic minor sex trafficking. Although she's now retired from the FBI, she does stay in touch. She is a strong believer in Jesus Christ, and she knows that we can partner with him to bring restoration to those who've been wronged so deeply through commercial sex trafficking. She brings with her today a wealth of experience and knowledge, and she's going to help us understand the dangers to our children online. So please welcome Dr. Renee Murrell.
Thank you so much, Pastor Joe. I am so honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me to join in on this discussion.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. And I just want to tell you, our audience is comprised of those who have a personal faith and who may be within a church community and who want to know how to make a difference in preventing child sex trafficking. So first, I'd like to give you the stage to introduce yourself and tell our audience the story of how you came into this fight against trafficking and detail a little bit about what your job was working as a victim advocate with the FBI. And then after that, we'll talk about what you know about grooming and selling and what our topic is today. What are the dangers to kids online? So go ahead, tell us your story.
Well, I started with the FBI 40 years ago. I can't believe it's been 40 years, wow. But for 40 years.
Exactly.
And I really became involved in human trafficking on an international level. So I started with my assignment with the Office of International Operations, and we were doing a special project in Southeast Europe. And I went to Romania, Moldova, to try to assist with trafficking overseas. And I was thinking, clueless, thinking to myself, wow, this is tragic and this is so difficult for these people here. Never did I believe that this was taking place in our own state, in the United States. So it wasn't until my assignment as victim specialist in the Baltimore field office that I really see the devastating effect of human trafficking on U.S. soil. As the victim specialist in the Baltimore division, I was one of the first responders. And what I saw and was out there with the youth when they were recovered. And that was a time for me to get really close and personal. But I think the thing that the takeaway is that I wouldn't have never thought that the same reasons that this thing is happening overseas is the exact same reasons that it's happening here in one of the richest countries in the world. It's happening here in our own backyard. And that was it was eye-opening. And I think not enough people understand that this does happen in the United States. It's happening every day. And our research suggests that it is happening in every state. So after I retired from the FBI in 2019, I stayed retired for about a year. And then I was lured out of about 2 minutes. I was lured out of retirement by this opportunity. And all people have to do is start talking to me about sex trafficking and how I can be involved. And someone called me up and said, we're starting this new project at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And we're developing a new program exclusively for sex trafficking victims in the child welfare division, which we know has so many disproportionately. That group is so vulnerable. And I had to go. So I went back to work to help develop that program. And once again, I was kind of floored and really saddened. But I was happy that we are stopped complaining about how the child welfare system is not is broken and really can't do it. I think that we need to do more than just complain about it. We need to support that group. So I felt honored to just be in on the ground level to try to figure out how do we support that group that is so vulnerable. So that's how I got there. I believe that when you get connected to it and you see and you're on the lines helping parents and helping professionals and helping youth who are involved in this, it draws you in and you can
Mm-hmm.
almost never stop. So I'm just going to be in the fight forever, and I accept that. I think it was my mission to do those kind of things, and any way I can be of assistance,
Yeah.
awareness, or jumping in to help, or to even
Yeah.
report, or to tell people how we can get through this and how
Yeah.
God is still here. He
Yes.
hasn't changed and he is still here. And so that message is important to me because I think it is the biggest message that we can share
Yeah.
is that God is
Yes.
still here for
Well,
us.
you're such a friend to Shared Hope too. I know when your name came up in this series, Facebook Live, it's like, ooh, we should call Dr. Renee Murrell, and everybody's like, yes. And it was such a reaction because we all love you. You're our friend. We value your experience and your background, and we know that so many things contribute to the exploitation of children and youth. And now that you're retired from the FBI, you mentioned that you are still in touch with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and with your FBI colleagues. What changes have occurred in just the last 2 years in selling children online? What kind of
Mhm.
things have transpired during that time?
Well, when I was there, 2 years ago. In just that short period of time, COVID happened and everything went from. We were finding out that they were luring kids at the mall, at the movies, at places where children congregate and where children are, and how they were kind of trying to groom them in these places. Well, nobody's at the mall. Well, they are, but they weren't during the COVID season, and children were online more. So, what we
Yes.
found is that between 2019 and 2020, online enticement, or that thing, because children are online, went up over 97%. It was a jump in
Yeah.
sexual exploitation of youth. It just went up, and that was through NCMEC's reporting. And
Hmm.
also, what I found out is that almost everything went online. And I'm talking about social media. Social media platforms
Hmm.
became so huge in this fight that we have got to look at this differently. We've got to address it differently. And so that became the biggest change. I think every social media, so it wasn't just the old back page that we knew about.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
Snapchat. Oh my, it's Snapchat. It is Instagram. It is Kick. It's
Yeah.
Musically. It's Tinder. It's everything.
Yeah.
And new apps are
Yeah.
coming up every day. It's PlayStation. It's
Hmm.
it's everything. And
Yes.
so what has happened is that youth are very, very concerned about followers and how many followers
Yes.
they get. And so,
Yeah.
uh, they want, and they don't know all these people. So they have a million followers, or 1,000 followers, or 500 followers, but do they really know these
Yeah.
people who are following them? Well, who's following them are perpetrators and traffickers and those who are out to do no good for these kids, who are following them, who are looking at their social media and developing strategies for how do
Yeah.
I get this child. And
Yeah.
that has been the biggest change that I've been
Yeah.
hearing about. Um, and I am thinking, yeah, we got to do better about educating our youth
Yes.
about
Yes.
social media.
Yeah. And that's part of what we're doing today. I'm so glad you brought that up because kids don't know. I think that's the key right there, what you said. And so we're speaking today to the caring adults, the parents, the youth pastor, the teacher, school nurse, whoever's watching this program. We want to be able to give you sort of like a laundry list of what a caring adult can notice what is it they could see in their child or in their child's social media? I know you recommend they stay in touch with what their kids are doing online. But Renee, what would you say if you were going to give caring adults a list of what could open the door for traffickers to reach a kid online? What would some of those things be?
Having their computers in their room is big. Having
Yes.
them in their
Yes.
room and on, like during the night hours where, everything is sleep, you're
Yes.
asleep. And so the children
Yes.
are not. And I'm not just talking about their computers, I'm talking about their phones too,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a little mini computer. And
Yes.
so their phones are on in their room at night and they are having conversations. So, it is okay. And I feel like it's okay. Children need 9.5 hours of sleep. Youth do. And
Mm-hmm.
teenagers, especially, because they have to get up so early to go to school. And it's okay to say, this is going to be our family rule that all the devices get charged up in the living room at a certain time or do something. And you take it all out and let them
Yeah.
get a good night's sleep. So,
Yes.
watching that social media and also, I think my age group and perhaps your age group and most young parents will admit, or some of the parents will admit, that they are not as social network savvy. So,
Mm-hmm.
we need to do better about, and what perfect person other than your children to sit down and have this conversation and say, I've been hearing so much about TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram. I have no idea what this is. Help me understand it. And then
Yes.
you're having that conversation with them. You need to learn about what these applications and these platforms can do and what
Yeah.
they're about and why this is so important to this child to be on there.
Yeah.
So you need to look at that. You need to also look at the changes in the behavior of your child. So
Mm.
if your child is suddenly not becoming interested in things that they used to be, and I'm not saying any one thing is
Mm-hmm.
going to be there to say my child is involved in something. No,
Mm-hmm.
it is the
Yeah.
totality of just a lot of things. And do keep in mind that this is also the age when they do start pulling away from adults and start to find.
Yeah.
So it can be. I think this is what makes it so complex. Make
Mm-hmm.
them the perfect victims in this is
Mm-hmm.
because so much is going on with them and that
Yeah.
some of this is just normal developmental behavior and
Mm-hmm.
some of it, and this is the thing that the trafficker does know, and so he
Mm-hmm.
is exploiting and taking advantage of this feelings of
Yeah.
uncertainty, this thing that the children, that youth are involved in during this period. And so that's why I think sometimes we think when they get 13, 14, 15, we can let go, but it's at that point when they need us the most. And even children later on, or even at that time, will
Yeah.
say to us that they needed us probably more during that period than
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
For them to say, I needed to hear words of encouragement. I needed to
Yeah.
hear somebody tell me that I was beautiful when I'm trying to size myself up
Yeah.
against the fake stuff out there that people have
Yeah.
kind of airbrush themselves and have all these
Yes.
filters on that make them look beautiful. And
Yeah.
this, or tall, or dark, or light, or skinny, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so they believe that, or they want, or that made them popular. And they
Yeah.
need to hear that you are perfect and that you
Yes.
are beautiful. And we need, and sometimes they so challenging, we forget to tell them
Yeah.
that. So I think that self-esteem issue is big.
Mm-hmm.
It is big, and they need to hear it from us constantly, even if they are driving you crazy. Before they go to bed at night, say, you drive me crazy. You are the most beautiful person in the world that's driving me crazy. And
Yeah.
that's because I love you. That this means so much to me, that I'm on you and I want to protect you and I want you to know that I'm here for you. And so I think we have to say that over and over again to them so that they will believe it. And okay, they believe that you're my parent, you have to say it, but they never get tired of hearing it. And they need to hear it over and over again, so that the person out there who's telling them all that nonsense, or who's manipulating them online, they will be a little bit more confident in who they are. And I think that's the ticket that we need to do. Yeah, we're telling kids, don't give up so much information on social media. I think they kind of got that, but I don't think we gave them enough instructions on the conversations that they should be having with
Mhm.
when they're talking online to people, and how that
Mhm.
can go so terribly wrong at certain
Yeah.
points. And I
Yeah.
think that interaction is where we need to begin to have those conversations with our youth about, when you're talking to them, these are some of the things you need to be listening for. Okay, you may not give them your name, your full name, or your address, or your telephone number, but what kind of conversations are you having with them
Mhm.
that they can use to kind of lure you in? And
Yeah.
sometimes it requires us to be brutally honest. And I don't
Mhm.
think that parents are ready, but I'm telling you, and I feel your pain that that those who are caring for them, or who
Yeah.
are responsible, or nurses, or youth ministers, and that,
Mhm.
I don't think that we do enough about being brutally honest with youth, not
Mhm.
to scare them, but I think we need to let them know if some of the risk factors is that they poverty is a risk factor. It really is, not having money. So that we need to talk about that and say that, you know what, baby, yeah, mom doesn't have the kind of money to get you the shoes, or the hairdo, or the nails done that some of the other kids may have yet. But you are worth more than anybody could pay you. So that may mean
Yeah.
that people out there may use that as a tool to get you to do some things that you don't want to do, and throw money and shoes and hairdos and telephones at you. But let me tell you, baby, you are worth more than you can't be bought. Because you're a
Yeah.
child of God. You're in love, and
So good.
we just gotta address it so that we can take that off the table. We have
Yeah.
to address their things. And if it was a child who may have been disenfranchised from their
Mhm.
home, or from their family, thrown in the streets because of their
Mhm.
sexuality of something, which makes them vulnerable,
Yeah.
then we need to provide that need that is not being done. So the youth minister certainly can jump in and
Yeah.
say, to them, I believe in you. I
Yeah.
know that you're more than
Yeah.
that. And in those kind of things, we need to have those. But people will use that as a
Mhm.
tool to get to you, and to try to be your friend. And these are some of the things that we want
Yeah.
to tell you, because they know. And the children who usually are the most vulnerable are those who don't have strong support systems.
Yeah.
And we need to provide that gap, and not
Yeah.
let the predator fill that gap
Yeah. Exactly.
with manipulation. So
Yeah.
I believe that parents just have to really pay attention. And in this world, crazy world, with so much is happening, pay attention to your child. Try to pick up on when you notice that and ask them. Okay, they may not tell you right away that something is gone, but say, you look like, did
Yeah.
something happen today at school? Are
That's
you
good.
okay? You look a
Yeah.
little, just let them know that you notice them, and
Yeah.
that they are there. And that is huge for a child, to
Yes.
let
Yeah.
them know that they mean something, and that
Yeah.
you are listening, and that I'm here. And they may not come right away, but say, you know what? If you need anything, I'm here. I'm here
Yeah.
for you. And then give
Yeah.
them the space to come to you. But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but you gotta. And then,
Yeah.
whew. And if I can tell parents one thing, if you hear something that is shocking to you, or that they have done something,
Mhm.
really try not to overreact,
Yeah.
which is
Keep your
hardest to
faith.
do. It's like, ooh, it's like to say, I want
Yeah.
them to tell me everything, but I'm not prepared to hear everything. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's real, and it's difficult. when your first
Yes.
reaction is to be upset. I can't tell you how
Yeah.
many cases where I had where parents literally overreacted and scared the child, so they didn't feel safe to come to the parent
Yeah.
anymore. And that's something that we have to do. We have to create space for
Mm-hmm.
them to come to us, and if not us, then
Somebody.
somebody.
Yes.
And parents got to
Yes.
get over themselves that if your child cannot talk to you, do
Yeah.
provide for them. It could be the aunt, it could be a grandmother, it could be somebody at church that you trust, but help them identify someone that they can help them and give
Yes.
them permission to go
Yes.
there. If you cannot talk to me,
That is such a
go
great
there.
point. Shared Hope has just recently created a safe adult handout for this very purpose that parents can give it to their kids. Parents can read it, youth leaders, whoever. And it has two columns and it compares what does a predator sound like and what does a safe adult sound like? What does a predator do and what does a safe adult do? And there are some real definite benchmarks. And you've given us so much information and so much to think about. One thing I remember, I'm a early child education, that was my degree. And I remember the one phrase that stuck in my mind more than anything was toddlers and teenagers need the same amount of your attention and time. And I remember thinking, wow, I mean, I had no idea, and you keep saying, have these conversations. And I want to just say to our audience, this is plural. This is not one conversation you're going to have with them, but this is going to be ongoing. And another thing I used to tell parents when we were pastoring, I used to say, you can practice now for when they're teenagers, when they're toddlers and they take a Sharpie and draw on the wall. Don't blow up as if it's the worst thing in the world. Practice now, not overreacting, practice now like, okay, we're going to get a sponge and we're going to scrub that off. So that later when you do that, do you look a little disturbed? Do you look sad? Or you've kind of been withdrawn? Do you want to talk about it? And then they say, yeah, there's this 43-year-old man online that I sent nude pictures to. You don't, rah! You bring it down
Bring it
and you
down.
react. How can I
Yeah.
help you? Why is that dangerous? And the other thing I really want to share, well, I guess two things. You said so much. My mind is going, yes, yes, yes. One is I had a mom contact me and she said that they required all devices to be plugged in out in a common area, but her kid would go get them in the middle of the night when she was asleep. So they moved them into their bedroom, into the closet, because they had them in their bedroom right there on the wall. And he actually crawled into their room in the night and they never woke up. And so somehow she figured it out. So she put them in the closet with the door shut so that if the door, they would hear. So we have to realize our teenagers, they're very social. They've been shut down for a long time. They have wanted to be with their friends and they haven't been able to. And this feels like their social lifeline. So we have to be really aware of that and make sure that those devices really, truly are secured and they really do understand why. I'm just trying to keep you safe. Everything your dad and I do is to keep you safe, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And we can lock the doors in this house, but if this device is in your room, then that window in your room is open for predators and we're going to protect you, just to give them the why and the understand. And then the last thing, and I want to go to our next question with you, Dr. Morale, is we need to teach our kids how to be rude to nice people. And you kind of mentioned it. They might offer you shoes or clothes or money, Bitcoin, tips. I'm a modeling agent. I'm a actor. I can get you an audition, whatever. They're super nice. And we have to teach our kids not to trust them. And sometimes you have to say, I don't want to talk to you anymore. And then not to delete that history, but go tell your safe adult and have them take that history and help you to find a way out of this relationship that has started as a friendship.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times we don't give them permission. We teach them, don't say this to adults. And so
Mm-hmm.
they are kind of hardwired to say, I didn't feel comfortable with this. Yes, it is comfortable to say no and saying, I have to check with my mom and
Mm-hmm.
saying, and I think we have to practice that.
Yeah.
And role play is like a beautiful thing. It's like role play. It gives them the
Yeah.
tools so that they can think on their feet if they had to think on their
Yes.
feet, that they
Yes.
already have something in their mind. We kind of practiced this once or twice, and we kind of went through this. If they said this, I'm supposed to
Yeah.
say this, and we kind of went through this. So it is such a good thing to have some kind of role play and say, well, if somebody
Yeah.
was to do that, how would you get? And you have so many things in the news that can kind of give you to get to this conversation. So much has
Yes.
happened that you can say, you know what?
Yes.
I heard a story about that. What would you do? And how would you get
Yes.
out of it? What would
That's
you
perfect.
say? And then kind of help them along with the language
Yeah.
to say.
That's
And
perfect.
sometimes no needs, this is my favorite thing. I say to my grandkids and my kids all the time, no really needs no explanation. It's sufficient. Just,
Hmm.
I mean, it is. You can just say
Hmm.
no, and you don't have to explain it. You can just
Hmm.
say no. If you feel
Yeah.
the need to, and sometimes young people and teenagers feel like they have to explain and tell why and have some kind of something just to save face so they won't be less popular or something. So we can practice that.
Yeah.
But always remember that no actually needs no explanation.
Yeah.
It's sufficient all by
Yeah.
itself. You can just, if you
Yeah.
can't think of something, just say, no, I don't feel like that today. You're
Yeah.
still casual, like, no,
Yeah.
not going to do that today.
Yeah. Click.
Click, gotta
Yeah.
go. And then tell
Absolutely.
someone. And I think it's important that they know that we need to tell someone about these things too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is so true. Now, I hope our audience is taking notes. If not, this will be on YouTube and on Shared Hope's Facebook site, so you can always go back and review. And we have the internet safety site, sharedhope.org/internet safety. And some of the things Renee's talking about, scripts, how to introduce this to your kids. One of them is find a news article and say, look, this kid got really tripped up on TikTok or by, meeting this person online, and then start that conversation. So let's just flip a little bit forward to, okay, you've worked with survivors of trafficking, those who are victims, have been victimized. And I'm sure in your work as a victim advocate, you've had kids tell you, when I was trapped, I just wish this adult would have done this or said this. What can we, as the adults who may be in the life of someone who's being groomed or even sold, exploited, what could we do to help them stay safe? You've already talked about noticing their demeanor and their personality and kind of reaching out, giving them a safe place to land. Is there anything else that you've heard from kids that they really wanted from adults?
I think that what they want or what we can provide them was consistency. I think sometimes what happens is that we may say, like you say, it's just one time, and then nothing happens, or they can't really share the whole thing with you at that first time. So it's okay to say, are you okay this time? If you see them again, or if something happens, or, just really, really normalizing them and saying to them, however they present. And sometimes they will not present well, meaning either physically they'll look like you don't want to be, people don't want to be associated with them, but you've detected something's wrong. It's okay to sometimes ask, are you okay? Are you okay? You need any help? I mean, I think we ought to get in the habit of saying that to people anyway, that we see who we detect something is wrong with. Do you need anything? Are you okay? Your neighbor, to strangers who just look in distress, or do you just pick up? I mean, sometimes we get that feeling that something isn't right with this person or they may need something. It
Yeah.
is, I mean, we just have to get outside ourselves and say to people, are you okay? Do you need some
Yeah.
help? I think sometimes nobody even asks. Nobody
Yeah.
even asked, did they need anything? And I'm talking
That's really good.
strangers now, and I'm talking
Yeah.
about not so much about your child, but about that next child who may
Hmm.
be out there. Can you say that to them? They need some
That's so
help.
good.
And also, I would say to you, if you see something strange, we got camera phones, we got everything. Write it down, put something,
Yeah.
write it down. If it seems strange, it may not, you don't have to know everything about it. It just was odd to you. Let somebody else figure out the details.
Yeah.
Report it. Call
Yes.
your local law enforcement. Call Polaris Project, or the hotline, call NCMEC, call FBI, call somebody, call all of
Yes.
them. I always say, call everybody
Yes.
and see who comes first, because that's just
Yes.
how I
Yes.
do when I'm out there speaking. They say, well, who should I call? I say, call them all. Call them all. Somebody's going to
Yes.
call, because I think people don't get the alarm that this sends off
Yeah.
in my heart when I see something that I
Mhm.
think is really strange. And only because I'm kind of in it, maybe I see things that are odd, and I do. My grandkids say I'm extra, and I am. I see things, but I'm always like, that's odd. Let me call,
Yeah.
such and such a person, and then let them figure it
Yes.
out. But I'm
Yes.
calling because I don't know, and I
Yeah.
want people to know. Somebody
Yes.
has to be concerned enough to call and to say,
Yes.
let's get some help. I don't have to know. It
Yeah.
could be perfectly innocent and okay. So what?
Mhm.
But call
Mhm.
and find
Yes.
out and start something, get something
Yes.
moving. So I would get something
I,
moving. I would also be very consistent. I think that what I do when I've had youth who were involved and not ready to make
mhm.
a pull
Mhm.
away is that's or who would go back into the life after a while, I would
Yeah.
say to them, I'm never going to give up on you. I'm just never going to give up on you. And I would surround them with other people other than me who could provide some help for them. This thing is something that we all have we can all have some part in. Whether
Yes.
it be you are just going to do this piece, and you do this piece well, but this one does this piece well. It
Yeah.
truly takes a village, and you need to have a group of people, nor can you
Yeah.
handle it alone. So,
That's right.
so we don't want to have to think. I never was thinking that the FBI victim specialist, even though I may be the first responder and I may be the first person that told them that I'm here for them and I'm going to help, but I was never thinking I was going to do this alone. I was like,
Mhm.
let me get my team, or let me get a team, let me find a team
Yes.
of people.
Yes.
And that included the faith based community. That included, because that was important.
Mhm.
And it may take a while down the road. And before we start talking about that piece, but that is important. And so we
Yeah.
want to offer that to a young person and say, you know what? I used to say, you know what? If you want to go to church, just give me a call, and on Saturday, and I swoop
Mm.
by and pick you up, and in my own car, all of that, and I'll take you to church, and no strings attached. That's that. If you want to go, call me, um,
Yeah.
and that would be something that we would do. Or I would say to them, I'm going to bring in somebody I really want you to meet. She's fantastic, and she's a nonprofit, and I need for you to meet her, and this person will be part of your support system. So we need to
Mhm.
build some services and some good people who are going to be there for that person, even when you can't be there. I had
Mhm.
a lot of victims, of survivors out there, and other cases, and I may be taken out of town. So I don't want to, and no, I don't want them to feel like if I'm not there, then somebody let them down. So it's
Mhm.
important to build a foundation for them of some really good people in their lives who are going to make a difference
Yeah.
and who are going to help them to kind of get through it, and
Yeah.
who are going to be there more than just a day. It's going to
Yes.
take more than just a day. So, and
Yes.
then allow them to have some mistakes and do some missteps and stuff, and say it's a learning experience, and
Boy,
what
is
did
it.
you learn, and tell me what you were feeling when this happened, and don't get so upset if they're not perfect, because they are
Yeah.
young, and we all tend to fall and make mistakes. And I think we have to kind of
Yeah.
remember that we all, even adults, have
Yeah.
moments when we don't do the right thing, or that we could have done better at
Yeah.
certain things. So we got to allow them that too, that
That's
they're
true.
not going to be perfect, and that things will happen, and that they will find some ways sometimes to get upset, and then
Yeah.
it'll throw them off, and they will
Yeah.
feel like they have no support, and we got to allow for those times when
Yeah.
things aren't going right.
Yeah. We know there's so much complex trauma involved in a child, a minor, even an adult being victimized through sexual exploitation. And their thinking is not always linear. In fact, very seldom. I mean, as their memories come up and they can handle it to think about it, they'll mention something else and then something else, and it's never really in a straight line. So I want to backtrack just one moment to what you said is make the call. And I would recommend that you call 1-800-THE-LOST. That's National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I love their tagline. It's you don't have to know everything, just tell us what you know. And they also have the Cybertipline.org, and that is an anonymous way to report. And like she said, tell them everything you know. So it's important you write it down. I've used that number before, and when I get around to reporting it, because I drive around to the other side of the parking lot in the shopping mall, and then I make the call, and then they say, well, did the older man with that young girl dressed in baby doll pajamas and high boots, did he have facial hair? And I'm like, I don't know. So you do need to write down things, the description of the person that you think is doing something that's just doesn't feel right. It may not be criminal, maybe a bad boyfriend. It doesn't have to be trafficking. But if you don't feel right about it, make the call. So I appreciate that encouragement.
And anybody can call. Anybody
Yes.
can call NIC, the
Yes.
National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Cybertipline.
Yes.
Anybody can call. So you
Yes.
don't have to be someone that you know, you just saw something suspicious. You can call. They will try to verify this. The more information, the better. But anyone can call.
Yes. Yes, I love it. Well, let's talk just a moment. We know kids are lured online. We know they can fall into the trap. We know they can be manipulated into the commercial sex trade. And I know that everyone's unique. I mean, every individual's made by God to be just who they are. Nobody's like anyone else. But what would you say are 1, 2, 3 contributing factors or ways that helped a child or a young person to find their way out? Is there anything that you'd say, boy, this I've seen over and over where that kid told me someone said this, someone did this, I heard this, whatever. And that was the moment when I decided I'm going to get out. Is there a short, can you talk to that, speak to that?
Oh, it's been different things for different. I often ask them, was it something or that was said to them, and and honestly, it was just not giving up on them. Is the biggest thing. It's just not giving up. It's not holding them so closely responsible for the lie that they told or the disappointment that they may have had. Do understand that it might take more than one time of you having conversations with them. It took us, I mean, some youth were recovered over and over again. And some of it was maturity. It just seems like the younger they are, sometimes the more difficult it is to kind of convince them. They don't understand. They don't have the capacity to understand the consequences of it.
Yeah.
So my youngest victim was 11 years old, 10 or 11, very difficult for me to have a conversation with her. But what I did tell her is that I would always be there. So when I saw her again 2 years ago, and I said, "Are you tired? You ready? You ready? And then when they gave me a little hope that they were ready, I jumped on it, and I was like, okay, but understand the stages of change when they're in that pre-contemplated stage where it's nothing. I don't even see this stuff happening. Very, very difficult to change their minds, but it's something will probably happen, and the streets are hard. I mean, they are hard. Do you think being at home is hard? It can be. But being in the streets is hard. So sometimes that moment that it is so hard, and I think if you receive them well, like if they ran away from home or from a juvenile, some kind of group home or wherever they've run away from, and they run away, and sometimes they're running away from the trafficker. Whenever you recover them from whatever reason, we ought to act like we're happy to see them. It's no like you shouldn't have ran and such stuff. And
I
it should
told
be like,
you.
I told you it should be like every time that we got them, it means that for that moment they're not caught up in that victimization. It is a moment in time when they're not being abused or when they're not. So we need to seize that opportunity and say, I am so happy to see you. you are safe, and I'm so happy that you're safe. Can most of the time I'm asking, can I hug you? Because I never want to assume that I can, because they
Yes.
have been through so much trauma and
Yeah.
abuse. So I'm saying, like, can I hug you? And if they say yes, it's like, okay, we'll have time to go through to sort out as to why this was a bad decision to run
Yeah.
away or whatever. But for that moment, I am so
Yes.
happy that you are
Yes.
here and safe. So those
Yeah.
kind of things make them feel like I was missed, that you care about me.
Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
wasn't about the trafficker. It wasn't about him. It
Yeah.
was about you right now.
Yeah.
And I am just so happy that you're here and that you're safe. Are you
Yes.
okay? And so I think that initial reaction that we have has got to
Hmm.
be intentional. We cannot say to them, like, you ran away and all of this punitive and all of the head shaking and all of that. No, they are
Yeah.
safe for this moment. And we need to
Yes.
relish in the fact that God brought you home right
Yeah.
now. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but right
Yeah.
now, I am so happy that you're here. And I was
Yeah.
worried about you. And you're
Yeah.
here. So my heart is, I feel good right now that you're okay.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think that that means so much. Sometimes it
Yeah.
was those little things that I did. Call them up sometimes if I had their number. And that was like a major feat. If I had their number and they would still
Yeah.
answer my call, just to call them up and say, okay, how you doing? Are you okay? Like on a Saturday, I don't have but 5 minutes, but you were on my mind,
Hmm.
and I was
Hmm.
thinking about you. And
Yeah.
so, and that's on a weekend or anytime they did cross my mind, I was like, let
Yeah.
me call her up. Because that's just God
Yeah.
speaking to me, telling me I
Yeah.
needed to call this person. So I
Yeah.
was like,
For
I
sure.
don't have much time because I may be in my day to day thing, but I was thinking about you. And sometimes I make it a point of just calling them periodically and saying, you
Yeah.
okay? I was thinking about you. I'm here for you if
Yeah.
you need it. No big thing. You doing okay?
Yeah.
And it's that communication. It was those
Yeah.
little things. It was a sequence of little things
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
did. You want to have lunch one day? Sometimes it was like they didn't trust it. No, no, Miss Renee, I know you're going to come and take me back, or I'm not ready. And I was like, okay, well, I'm here. And
Yeah.
and just really try to build that relationship.
Hmm.
Those relationships are everything. And so, if I can
Yes.
tell anything that you do, I think it was a series of those little things that I
Yeah.
was doing, or that we can all do,
Yeah.
that will make them feel like, um, when things get rough in the streets, and they will,
Hmm.
you know what? She was sweet to me. She was kind to me. She said I could call. I'm so frustrated with the streets, or things didn't go right, or
Yeah.
this happened and he didn't treat me right. Maybe I can go here and talk to
Yeah.
her. And so
Yeah.
it's those little
Yes.
seeds that you sow
Yes.
that will make this young person, and that's what
Yes.
they've told me, because you always answered my call. Because that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean I always came out. It just
Mm-hmm.
meant
Yeah.
that I always answered their call and said, you
Yes.
know what? I'm going to come see you if you're ready to. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
It was those little things that, in
Yeah.
combination with,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, that made a difference. And that's what they were telling me. It
Yeah.
was these little things that people showed them love, even when they weren't lovable, that we
Hmm.
still showed them
That's
love,
powerful. That
that
is
made
so
those little
powerful.
things. Yeah, I think it
Because
was
we can
that.
do that. The people in our audience, you can do that. You can be a friend. You can be non judgmental. You can be welcoming. You can offer them a hamburger. You can offer them sweats or something to change clothes. Or do you just need to take a nap? Do you just want to come over and just sleep on my couch for a little while? And no strings attached. Now you're mine. Now you have to stay off the streets. Now we're going to do this. No, you let them be in the driver's seat. So let's talk about that for a minute. So the young person has come out and they want help. And now they've got this path ahead of them. And you already talked about it can be circuitous. Sometimes they go back and then they come back again. But what are the mile markers? Like getting out's just the beginning. What do
Yeah.
they need to do? What are the steps that bring them
Wow.
closer to healing? And I know that's probably a whole nother
It
webinar all by
is a
itself.
whole nother webinar. I think we need to realize that the trauma that they faced, um,
Mhm.
it is devastating. It toys at their who they are. So the self doubt that they had going into it just magnifies it. And
Yeah.
so what they are feeling now is any little thing can send them spinning. They're out of the
Mm-hmm.
trauma, leaves them off balance. So I think one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest things we can do to help them and to empower them is to help them kind of see what they're feeling, really, because they can't even
Mm-hmm.
describe it.
Yeah.
They just don't have
Yeah.
the words to articulate it often. So we may just to help them find control and to be able to start thinking about this trauma that is no way their fault is leading
Yeah.
them down this road. And so it's like what happens when you start to feel anxious? This is what you
Yeah.
may say. Help me identify what that is,
Mm-hmm.
so that I will know. Is it that you get what does it look like physically? Do you start to
Mm-hmm.
hyperventilate? Do you start to, what are some of the physical signs that you're getting agitated? And
Mm-hmm.
how will I know that? Or how will your person who's helping you, how will we know? And would it be somebody said something to you wrong, or it was a smell, it was a
Mm-hmm.
hat, it could be a sound, it could be the music, the song. What are some of these things that are triggering to you, and help you identify these things and what it looks like to me, and
Yeah.
how will I know that? Because sometimes you may not be able to tell me, so how will I know that? And then ask them what works to calm you down, and do you need space? Do you need a hug? Do you just need for me to be there and say nothing, but just kind of be there? I think just trying to help. This is a tool that we've been using recently, and I've been trying to really employ this to help them, to help me figure out when it is that they feeling really off balance and out of control, because that trauma is leaving them out of control sometimes, and they don't even know what it is, just to help them recognize it, so that
Yeah.
I'm not looking here and that
Yeah.
isn't even it. I want to know what it looks like for you, and so that I
Yeah.
can identify that. And you've already told me some of the things that you already have done to calm yourself down, and maybe we can start to figure this out before you run again, or
Yeah.
before, or when you're doing this, what calms you down, what can I do to support you? Because so many times after they ran, I was saying, well, I was here, how come you didn't call me? And they don't know why, or they don't even know why they were doing it. And
Yeah.
so this piece here, helping to slow it down and just helping to talk through it, and very non-judgmental, just trying to
Yeah.
ask them what is going on. Help me identify what's going on with you, what it looks like. What do you need from me? What works? Oh, if it doesn't work, let's not try that again. What you don't need, or at least tell me what you don't need, so I won't be doing this, because they are so
Yeah.
individual. So I want to know, this works for you, so I'm trying this, and she's going like, totally does not work. In fact, that's triggering for me, and I'll be like, I need to know that. And so I think what that does is, for one thing, it allows them to begin to really understand what's going on with them, and to give themselves a break about
Yeah.
it. Because not understanding it and just feeling bad that I should have stayed, and I feeling guilty because I was triggered. I didn't even know what the trigger was. And so I ran
Yeah.
away. And then I got myself into more trouble.
Yeah.
Then people are saying they won't help me anymore, and all of these things. So it helps
Mm-hmm.
them to begin to empower themselves and to know, just begin to be in tune with their
Yeah.
own self. But it also allows those who are working with you to try to say,
Mm-hmm.
I know what I can do to help, what usually works with her. And I know she just needs for me to be there. I don't have to say a word. Just to be
Mm-hmm.
present here is enough.
Yeah.
And when she's ready, I'll be there. And if that takes an hour, I'll be there for an hour. So I think one of those things, tools have been really good for, that I've been starting to use. Um, and also understanding the stages of change too, and when they're
Mm-hmm.
out there, and the fact that they will go back, but they're never, we learn something from that. And
Yeah.
so really learn, don't hold
Yeah.
that against them if they don't follow through on everything that they say. So it's just being consistent, and
Yeah.
really, really saying to yourself, this is hard for her right now. The
Yeah.
trauma is incredible. So the labels that we give young people as runners, we
Yeah.
say they
Mm-hmm.
manipulative. Well, the manipulation has saved her life. You
Yeah.
know what? It really has. It's her survival mechanism. She had
Yeah.
to manipulate to stay there. So we have to use that as her strengths and say, I know you're good at this. You can do this. We just need to
Yeah.
change that. And so if she
Yes.
was out there because she was out there, okay, this girl has got more than a notion about how to survive. And so
Hmm.
I need to try to change that and say, look, this is what we add. How are we going to get you
Yeah.
what you need is your driver's license. How powerful is that? Isn't that a milestone for more 16-year-olds? And say,
Yeah.
let's try to work on that. Maybe that will keep her from and get her so distracted or so involved in herself. Okay, we're
Hmm.
working on you that she won't be thinking about running away from here or this.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah.
we'll say, you know what, you're so good at art. I found this, or dance. I found this program who's really going to highlight this because they're looking for someone like you and
Mhm.
they want to help you. So it's really about
Yeah.
listening and paying attention. And those
Yes.
are some of the things that I started trying to do and trying to work, is particularly when I was with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, was we was trying to figure out what is some of the things that
Yes.
motivate this child to
Hmm.
stay. So it wasn't about completely eliminating some of the running behavior,
Hmm.
but it was about reducing it and putting in its place something. So when
Hmm.
they give up that thing, that life, we
Yeah.
have to replace it with something. We have
Yes.
to give them an alternative to that
Yes.
life. And that means
Yes.
finding out what we can do for them that they really
Yeah.
do enjoy. And then
Yeah.
we start
Yeah.
start there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's not easy, but we got to do a better job
Yes.
because the traffickers are doing a better job of
That's right.
listening
That's
sometimes, and we
right.
got to be that person.
We've got to bring them into a place where they get small victories, where they get accomplishments, where they feel empowered. Even the driver's license idea, it's something they can work towards, and then you're there to help them. And then they did it, and I won. I did it. Look, I did it.
You can
Or
do
the.
anything. That's just
Yes,
one piece. And then we move to, something else, but just these small victories of trying to say that I want to be like other kids my age.
yeah,
What are some of the other things that their age group is doing? And
yes,
it really does give them preoccupied with working on
yes,
themselves. And that is
yes,
empowering to me, these little
yes,
accomplishments that they have.
yes.
And us noticing, say, girl, do you remember how your
Mhm.
children felt when they got their driver's
Yeah,
license? It was like
yeah,
we was taking pictures, everything was like high
yeah, yeah.
fiving, and it was
Yay!
so accomplishment. That
Yes,
is what they need. They need to
yes.
feel
Well,
that in a normal way.
yeah, let's talk a minute, remembering our audience as parents and grandparents and youth leaders and counselors and people who share a common passion to help keep kids safe. And many of them also share a profound faith in Jesus Christ, which Shared Hope is a Christian organization. And so they want to help, but they're not always sure how. So let's say that someone has a child or an adult come into their life, and they've done some of these things, and they've helped them along the way, and they've been there for them on the phone, and now this person says, I really want out, but I feel threatened by this trafficker, or I want out, but I don't know how to get out because this or that. So we want to talk about, as a victim advocate for the FBI, what number would they call? I know Richard's going to put that number on the screen there. And what would they say? Who are they going to
Mhm.
talk to?
Talk
What
to.
does that look like?
I would suggest that they call headquarters if you don't know your local FBI field office. There are field offices in every state, but 202-324-3000 is headquarters, and they will help guide you to the right person. And you would just start talking to them about, you have a complaint or you've seen something and you want to or you had somebody who gave you some information, and start telling them. They will help you and start asking you questions to direct you to the right place. I also wanted to say that the victim specialist in every field office is a tremendous resource. I think that that person can give you an added bit of help to help you calm down in the moment, to kind of help you to kind of get your thoughts together and to
Mhm.
figure out what you can do at that particular moment. And every field office has a victim specialist, so ask for the victim specialist too. So I would do two things. call the headquarters at 202-324-3000. And when you get to that field office and you made the official report, ask to be connected to the victim specialist. And that victim specialist will go so far as to helping you find resources in your community that's going to help you through it.
That's wonderful. Powerful, too, to know that you as a citizen, anyone can call. The duty agent is on 24/7. And as the FBI, they're a federal agency, and trafficking of minors is a federal offense. So they will reach into your community and find your local law enforcement and work with them to bring that child to safety. Or if it's a non-emergency, they'll take all the information and they'll work with it. So that's wonderful. Thank you, Renee. This has been such valuable information. And if you're listening and you want to know more, please go to our chat and ask questions, and we'll be sure that you get answers to help you protect kids in your community. And Renee, as we close today, I would just like to ask you to pray with our audience.
It would be my pleasure to just invite, dear Lord, we thank you for everything that you've done for us. If you do no more, you've already done so much for us. We are eternally grateful that you just look past all of our faults, and you see us. You loved us while we were yet sinners. So, dear God, we don't have to be perfect. We can be in the life of anywhere, and you will come see about us, dear God. So we are so grateful for your love, because that's what unconditional love is. We thank you, dear Lord, for just giving your Son, Jesus Christ, so that we may have the opportunity to talk and to you and to just pray for ourselves, pray for those who need you, dear God. We thank you for answered prayers. We thank you in advance for answered prayers. We thank you for all of those out there who are struggling with what to do. We are hopeful that this awareness will touch their lives, will let them know that they too can help. We know that you loved us, and our charge is to love everyone as you have loved us, dear God. So I'm just praying for all of those out there who haven't yet found you. Oh my God, dear God, help them understand that their burdens can be the comfort that you give to those who seek you is unimaginable. So, dear God, I'm just asking that they get to know you so that they too can be relieved of all of the hurt and the pain. So, dear God, we're asking today for the world, who we're in crises right now, and we need you more than ever. So, dear God, we ask these things in the blessed name and in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I just want to add one thing as we close, and that is that Dr. Morale is available. She is a speaker. If you have a youth group or social worker, she is a licensed social worker. She has this wealth of experience and knowledge. And so if there's a way that you have an opening and you'd like to have her speak, please do reach out to us at Shared Hope. That would be awareness@sharedhope.org. And we'll send that email right on over to her, and she'll be able to connect with you. So, Renee, one last thought before we go. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I'd just like to say that this has been so wonderful to be able to talk. The awareness piece is so important to people. I want you to know that you too, wherever you are, you have an opportunity to do something in a child's life, in a young person's life. It will be so instrumental to their development. Is to have you say to them that I'm here for you. So I just want to say that to you, to thank you all for having me here, and to God bless you.
Oh, and thank you for all that you've given us. It's just been such a pleasure to be with you again. So God bless you, and I'm sure we will see you again on Facebook Live.
Thank you. Thank you.